I'm Austin Cheney here in the 13 WMAZ Weather Center, and we're continuing to keep an eye on this catastrophic hurricane now, Category 5 Hurricane Dorian, as it is now making its way through the Bahamas. Earlier today, it made landfall on the Bahamas as a Category 5 hurricane, the strongest hurricane ever to impact this region of the Bahamas. And at times today, the eye has engulfed entire islands here in the northern Bahamas, bringing with it those sustained winds of 185 miles an hour and gusts as high as 220 miles an hour. So I do fear that there is catastrophic damage ongoing down there right now. What's happening with the storm this evening is it is beginning to slow down. Notice the motion is off to the west at about 5 miles an hour, and that has been slightly slower with each advisor that we've seen come out. So the winds aloft steering this hurricane are starting to slow down, and because of that, the forecast models are going to have a challenge over the next couple of hours depicting that eventual turn to the north, which is important because parts of the eastern seaboard are now still in play for a potential landfall with Hurricane Dorian. So here's the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center. Over the next day, it will slowly continue off towards the west, impacting Grand Bahama Island as a catastrophic Category 5 hurricane, a very dangerous situation down there. And some point on Labor Day is when the system will make that turn to the north. Wherever that exactly happens is still yet to be seen, and that's going to play a critical role in this forecast. Once we go forward in time beyond that, notice how the forecast cone of uncertainty still includes much of the east coast of Florida. We cannot completely rule out a landfall of Hurricane Dorian on the east coast of Florida. So as we go over the next couple of days, as you continue to talk to your friends and family down there in South Florida, keep in mind and let them know that even though the official forecast path keeps the storm offshore, a change in that forecast path of 50 to 100 miles could bring the core of this very dangerous hurricane onshore. So parts of Florida are not out of the woods just yet. As we continue going through the forecast now, the forecast will be passing the Georgia coastline just off to the southeast. So same rules apply here on the Georgia coastline. A shift in the forecast track of 100 miles could bring this hurricane onshore in Georgia. That's something we'll have to watch over the next couple of days. The good news for us locally here in central Georgia, we are completely out of the forecast cone of uncertainty. The likelihood that the center of circulation comes through our area is very low, but we could still see some wind gusts as the center of this hurricane passes just to our south. Let's go through some of the forecast models now that depict the future of this hurricane. The RPM model continues to show a very dangerous hurricane in and around the northern Bahamas over the next couple of days, and it will eventually make that turn towards the north. Now, you remember as we were going through this yesterday, that nice trend in the models that kept the storm east and made us all feel pretty good about this forecast. Unfortunately, that has gone away today, and it looks like the RPM model wants to bring this storm closer to the east coast of Florida, maybe just off the Space Coast here, bringing with it those hurricane-force wind gusts. As we continue to go forward in time, it does continue to look more likely, though, that central Georgia will stay away from the worst of the impacts as the center of circulation stays well away from us. And this is also an important part of the forecast here. Notice how we are on the western side of the circulation. That's the very dry part of the circulation and less windy side. So the impacts locally are looking fairly low at this point, even with a very dangerous and strengthening Category 5 hurricane down there in the Bahamas. Here's a look at some of those wind gusts. Again, the center of the circulation with some of the models is just offshore, still though bringing with it tropical storm force and potentially a hurricane force wind gusts to the east coast of Florida. And if this system were to go 25 to 50 miles to the east, we could see these numbers here on the east coast definitely increase. For us here in central Georgia, as the circulation passes to our south, we'll see increased wind gusts to 25 to 35 miles an hour. But with the lack of rainfall that I showed you on that last graphic, we can definitely handle those wind gusts. So I'll keep you updated both on Facebook, online, and of course coming up later on 13 WMAZ News.